Your baby runs to you when something scares them, and you scoop them up and you think, okay, good. But then they go straight back to playing, and you wonder, did that even matter? What if that moment, the running back to play part, the part you barely noticed, is actually the clearest sign your attachment is working? First, though, what about the baby who doesn't run to you? The one who seems totally unfazed, or the one who can't calm down no matter what you do? Are those signs of a problem or just different kids with different temperaments? That is what this video is going to sort out. And one of the answers here is going to let you stop doing something you've probably been second-guessing. The real proof of a secure bond is two things happening in sequence, and most parents only see one of them. Here is the science behind both. Researchers at the University of Regensburg studied 16-month-old toddlers, specifically how they responded to two distinct stressors, a frustrating situation and a mildly frightening one. They compared three groups: securely attached babies, avoidant babies, and resistant babies. And across both stressors, a specific behavioral pattern separated the secure group from every other. Not just whether the baby came to mom, but what happened immediately after. That finding is the spine of everything that follows. First, the reach. Secure toddlers, when scared or frustrated, actively oriented toward their mother. Not a glance, not a hover near the door. They moved toward her, reached for her, sought her out as a deliberate strategy. The mechanism here is what researchers call the caregiver as a safe haven. The baby has learned through repeated experience that this person reliably reduces threat. That learning is stored, and under stress, it fires automatically. Here is the important flip. Avoidant babies in the same study showed fewer of those mother-directed bids for comfort, even when mom was right there in the room. So, if your baby sometimes seems almost too calm, too self-contained when something goes wrong, that isn't necessarily independence. It may be that the nervous system has learned not to expect the reach to work. That distinction matters, because it reframes what you're looking for. A baby who turns to you under threat isn't clingy. That baby is running a strategy that works. Second, the recover. This is the half that parents almost always miss, and it is actually the hidden confirmation of security. After the secure toddlers in the study sought comfort, they calmed and went back to exploring. They re-engaged with the environment. The threat registered, mom handled it, and the nervous system reset. That reset, that flexible shift from distress back to curiosity, is what researchers identified as the hallmark of the secure pattern. Resistant babies couldn't do it. They stayed in distress even after reaching mom. The comfort didn't land in a way that allowed them to shift gears. So if your toddler runs to you, cries for 30 seconds, and then is suddenly interested in the dog again, that is not you failing to hold space long enough. That is your child's stress system doing exactly what a secure attachment built it to do. You can stop reading that as a sign you didn't do enough. You did. Third, and this is the one most parents have backwards, the third one is actually about what not to do, and it only makes sense once you have the first two clear. The thing that builds both halves of the pattern, the reach and the recover, is not the dramatic moments. It is not how you handle a genuine crisis. It is the 100 ordinary moments when your child is mildly unsettled and you respond before it escalates. The study's pattern held across both frustration situations and fear situations. That cross-context consistency matters because it tells you the behavior isn't a fluke of one particularly bad afternoon. It's a signature wired in through repetition. The repetition that wires it in is low-stakes responsiveness, picking up the baby who fusses at the edge of the playroom, the brief comfort after a tumble before they go back to the toy. You do not need to manufacture big bonding experiences. The ordinary response, done consistently, is the mechanism. One honest limit here. This study was conducted specifically with 16-month-olds and their mothers. If your child is 3 or 4, the attachment science still points in the same direction. But the behavioral markers shift with development. So take the two-part pattern as a strong directional signal rather than a precise checklist. And this was studied in mother-child pairs specifically. So if your baby's primary caregiver is someone else, the same logic applies to that relationship. Secure attachment forms with whoever responds consistently. Fourth, the avoidant pattern deserves its own moment, because if you see it in your child, the instinct is to back off and give them space. And that instinct, though it feels respectful, may be reinforcing exactly what you want to change. Avoidant babies learned, through experience, that proximity bids don't reliably reduce threat. The repair is not space. The repair is showing up repeatedly in the low-stakes moments, so the nervous system starts to update its prediction. You don't do this with a single big gesture. You do it with 100 small ones. That is what the consistent responsiveness literature keeps landing on, and it is what this study's 3-group comparison makes visible. The difference between secure and avoidant isn't one rupture. It's the accumulated pattern. So here is what you are actually watching for. Your child runs to you, you receive them, they settle, and then they go back to whatever they were doing. That sequence, unremarkable as it feels in the moment, is the behavioral signature of a bond that is working exactly as it is supposed to. The going back to play is not rejection, it is proof. If your child is doing that, they have learned that you are safe, that coming to you works, and that the world is worth going back to. That is the whole thing. That is what secure looks like. Subscribe if you want the research behind what actually shapes these patterns long term. And tell me in the comments, does your toddler run to you and then immediately go back to playing? I want to hear whether you've been reading that as a good sign or something you were worried about.